okay? Yes, okay. All right, so it's Tuesday, June 16th, our Committee of the Whole meeting, and I would like to call this meeting to order. There has been advanced adequate notice provided. Ms. Coleman, roll call, please.
Let me see. Mrs. Devine, she's the first one.
Here.
Mrs. Mikulski,
Here.
Mrs. E, Mr. McMillan,
Here.
Mr. Dilkis,
Here.
Mrs. Maya.
Here.
We do have quorum, so.
You left off Roger?
Oh, sorry, Roger. Nothing personal. Sorry.
Here.
I already checked your box. That's why I did that. I was like, never mind.
Okay, everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. There is no executive session at this time, and I am going to move past Section 3, that is potentially happening next week. And Section 4, can I have a motion to enter Committee of the Whole?
So moved.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so Section 5, future dates and miscellaneous information. Wow, there is like nothing on there. Yeah. Okay, so I guess 90% of the 99% of the events are going to be happening before next week. So just, we are going to have an upcoming retreat on August 19th at Committee of the Whole structure in the LMC as well. So our presentations are going to be at the regular board meeting, and then routine business will be approved at the regular meeting. I love the approval at the regular BOE meeting. That's helpful. Thank you. Student reports during the regular BOE meeting. Superintendent's report at the regular BOE meeting. All right, moving on to Section 10, Business Administrator, Ms. Coleman.
Okay. So in Section 10, I don't know if anybody had a chance to review it. Budget transfers, financial reports, student activity report, and food service financial statements have all been uploaded for the month of May. Purchase orders and warrants, as is normal, we're continuing to work on, and they will be up by Friday, or excuse me, not Friday, Thursday afternoon, because we're closed on Friday. And then getting into Section 11, to the meat of it. 11.09 is a grant that Newbie has received, School Grief Trainings Grant for $500. 11.10 is another grant for Newbie, $450, and that's State House Express Transportation. I believe it's to pay for the transportation so the kids can go to the State House. I believe tours of the State House are for free. Item 11.11, this is an annual resolution. The Burlington County Insurance Pool, the JIF that we're in, after they close their audited years, they distribute any excess funds. So the year that was just closed is fiscal year 1920 and fiscal year 2021. So what is available to Collingswood is $13,215. So that'll be a credit to our 26-27 premiums. So it's a little bit of money coming back into the district. 11.12 is also an annual approval, just authorizing me and the auditor to distribute into our capital and maintenance reserve accounts any excess funds. This is the only time of the year besides budget time that I can deposit money into capital reserve or maintenance reserve. And the law says we have to do it in the month of June. I always do an up to amount, and then in August, once the auditor's done, either August or September, he's coming out the first 2 weeks of August. Once we know how much money is available for deposit, then I'll let the board know. But I do an up to dollar amount, just in case. This way I can deposit.
Beth Ann, can I ask questions now, or do you want me to wait?
Go ahead.
So we're approving you being able to transfer things into the reserve accounts, but we just don't know how much yet until August.
Right, so I put like up to $1 million, and then when the auditor comes out, again, we have to go through the audits and cancel purchase orders. We determine how much money is available for the 26-27 budget for surplus, and if there's any funds left over, I put it in capital maintenance reserve. The only time, the law only lets me do it in June or at budget time, and obviously at budget time, I honestly don't know how much money we're gonna have. So I put a large dollar amount, and I put an up to amount, but I'll report back once I know exactly how much. Sure. Item 1113 is just approving me during the summer months to continue to pay bills. Usually during this, we're starting to actually close the books, but we continue to receive invoices from vendors through the middle and end of July. So this gives me the ability to continue to pay bills, and then any bills I pay during the months of July and August, I'll bring to you in August to ratify. The next item, resolution to practice and promote civility, New Jersey School Boards Association. And if you want, I can read the whole thing, but you guys have in front of you a pledge. New Jersey School Boards Association sent out a civility resolution and a civility pledge, just basically saying that we recognize that freedom of speech, we recognize freedom of speech, and we obviously were aware of the state and federal laws, allowing people to express their opinions, but that we're going to be respectful. And that we advocate for civil engagement, but we want to do it in a respectful manner, basically. You guys can read the resolution, but I just basically summed it up. But you guys have a copy of the pledge in front of you. Kelly, did I explain that?
Yeah, well, is
Yeah.
there a place for us to sign off on this, or is this? Like,
Yeah,
maybe
once
send
it's
it back?
done,
Okay.
it's actually in the agenda itself, the actual
Okay.
board
Yep.
resolution. Once it's done, I will have my secretary print the actual resolution out where I sign it and
Oh.
date it, and then I'll distribute it to the board to
Oh, I
sign.
see on the back.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then I'll send it back to school boards.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
I think that this is a great idea, and I'm really excited that the state is taking some action on this and promoting this across all boards. So I'm happy to do this. I hope everybody is happy to do this.
Any questions with that? Okay. Item 11.15 is just a renewal of our lease with the First United Methodist Church. We have our preschool program there. This is year 3 of a 5-year term, and there's been no change in the rent amount, but I do bring it to your attention. Item 1116 is we're approving a homeless tuition contracts between our Collingswood and Gloucester City for 2 children, and Gloucester City is also providing the transportation for the children, and those dollar amounts are in the agenda. 11.17 is another homeless child that's now residing in Gloucester City, and we have to reimburse Gloucester City for transportation for that child. 11.18 is an out-of-district tuition agreement with Gloucester County Special Services. This goes back to February. It's February through June. It's a prorated dollar amount, but the dollar amount and the out-of-county fee is listed in the agenda. 11.19, a family of 6 is homeless out of Collingswood, residing in Camden City. So the amounts that we owe Camden City for the 25-26 school year are listed in the agenda. I'm sorry? Each kid, yes. Yeah. Hardenberg, 11.20 is our annual resolution approving Hardenberg. There are risk management consultants with the JIF. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the JIF agenda where we're getting money back. But they represent us at the JIF. 11.21 is approving Inspire Health Network. They're going to be providing our substance abuse screening programs for 26-27. This is not for staff and not for all children. This is like if there's a suspicion of something at like a school event, this is when this would kick in. Okay. 11.22 is the amendment or an addendum with ESS. ESS provides support services, so this year we have included substitute nurses. 11.23, you guys did see this last month. In typical state fashion, we approved the NutriServe Food Management Company contract. I uploaded it to Tret, and they're like, we would like you to say something else in the resolution. So for both Collingswood and Oakland, I had to change the resolution. They want to know the total dollar amount of the food service program. That's what it's expected to be. So I had to add that sentence into the agenda. 11.24 is the recommendation for the lunch prices and breakfast prices for next school year. And I did include in the administrative content section the PLE tool that I'm supposed to use for the federal government. The PLE tool did dictate a 10-cent increase. So that is what's represented in the recommendation. 11.25 is recommending Home Care Therapies, LLC, to provide one-on-one skilled nursing services 2 hours a day for a specific child. 11.26 is approving a contract with First Children's Services to provide mental health services from July through December. And the reason for that is it's for the middle school and high school, and it's through a grant that's expiring in December. So, yeah. And then 11.27, sorry, it's a large agenda. First Children's Services is providing specialized instructional assistance services at the rate of $56.50 per hour. 11.28 is approval of a shared service agreement with Haddon Township. This is for our communication services in the amount $20,000, and there has not been an increase in this contract. 11.29 is continuation of a shared network administrator service contract with Audubon. Audubon, they kind of help supplement our tech team, so all the Chromebooks that get broken, we ship to Audubon. And they fixed hundreds so far this year for us, which is a lot cheaper than obviously getting rid of them or sending them out. So we send them to Audubon. 11.30 is approving a shared maintenance services agreement with Gloucester City. This goes along with all the other ones we've already approved, like Belmar and Haddon Township and Clementon. They just got their contract in a little late. 11.31 is a shared custodial maintenance agreement with the borough. This is for us to clean the bathrooms at Night Park. 11.32 is a parental contract for student transportation, and that will not exceed $10,000. 11.33 is just we're accepting a very generous donation for a trumpet and a saxophone to Newby Elementary School. 11.34 is approving the shared service agreement between the Collingswood Board of Ed and the Borough of Collingswood in furtherance of the rec plan. I did attach the draft shared service agreement in the administrative content, so you guys can take a look at it. I believe the borough is approving it tonight. I think their meeting's right now we're at 7 o'clock. Okay. Do you want me to pause here? Oh, it's tomorrow? Oh, I thought it was tonight. Okay. Kelly and Sakita, does anybody want to say anything, or do you want me to keep going?
One,
Okay, I can keep going.
so paired with that, just wanted to make sure, also for an administrative content for board members in the committee of the whole topics, there's also additional documents and a second copy of the shared service agreement under administrative content for board members about the partnership.
All right, 11.35 is approving the Collingswood Rec Program to hold a lacrosse camp at the high school complex from August 3rd to August 7th. 11.36 is approving the Collingswood Rec Program to hold a pre-K camp at Tatum Elementary from June 29th to July 24th in the mornings. And 11.37 is approving the Collingswood Rec Program to hold a camp at Tatum Elementary for, not pre-K, for K to 5, and June 29th through July 24th in the morning. And then under my discussion, I did list, so tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning to 10 a.m., I did put it on our website, the state, or, excuse me, I'm having a fart. The New Jersey Fair Funding Collective is having like a coffee and talk. I put the flyer on our website. I did list in the administrative content the 5 bills that are going to be discussed. So I did pull them out and I did read them all, but in case anybody's interested in the public at home or board members, it's 8:30 in the morning. I forget the name. It's at Royal Mile Coffee Warehouse right on Haddon Avenue. But I did list the bills. These are all bills that could potentially help school districts. The first one, S4438, is basically establishing a New Jersey Public Employee Health Trust, kind of like our health insurance fund, but it looks like they want to do one like statewide. S 4330 limits the reductions in state aid for certain districts. I kind of like that one because if you're a district that's below adequacy and below your local fair share, but you've been getting cut, it kind of limits the cut to the state aid that you got before. I kind of like that one because obviously it would apply to both Collingswood and Oakland. S 4328 establishes a fund of like $25 million. It reads like it's going to be like an extraordinary fund. They're establishing a pot of money of $25 million to help school districts with high health insurance premiums. My guess is it's going to run like extraordinary aid where you have to apply at the end of the year and you might get like a prorated amount back if you're lucky. S 4282 establishes a health benefit commission to run the state health benefits plan. And it limits reimbursement for certain medical procedures. They went into a lot of detail about medical procedures. So they kind of lost me on that one. And S 3824, I do like this one as well. It deals with extraordinary aid. It changes it a little bit. So right now, we get reimbursed for in-district children. An in-district child we spend more than $40,000, between $40,000 and $55,000, we get reimbursed a little bit. And then anything over $55,000 out of district, we get reimbursed a little bit. It would change the extraordinary aid in that the state would pay the amount between the $40,000 and $55,000, and then anything over $55,000, it would put the onus on the counties to pay, and then the counties get some kind of tax thing or something. So anybody who's interested, I just wanted to throw that out there that they are continuing to lobby during the summer months. So it's out there on both websites, and anybody who's interested, I recommend you guys go. That's it for me. Any questions?
I just wanted to ask you to elaborate a little bit on the added ESS for nursing.
Yeah, I can. I'm going to look. Oh, she wanted us to elaborate on the ESS nursing. I'll let Meredith kind of take over. It was her idea, and it was actually a very good one. Hold on.
Yes, so as folks are, I believe, aware on this board, we had a nurse resignation earlier this spring. And so in order to provide our buildings with some extra capacity from a substitute nurse perspective, in addition to the substitute nurses that we already have within our mix that were previously board approved, we reached out to our partners at ESS, who we already use for our teacher substitutes, our admin assistant substitutes, our administrator substitutes, and we were pleased to know and learn that they also offer substitute nursing services. We haven't actually needed to use this option yet, which is, again, a good problem, but I'm pleased to have it in the mix as an option should we need it going forward.
Will this be in lieu of hiring to replace the resignation?
There was a posting for the middle school nurse vacancy that went out earlier this week, I believe. And at this time, we're continuing to review nurse capacity, student needs, state statute with regard to nursing obligations to make sure that we have a appropriate plan going forward for next year.
So we don't know what nursing will look like in the elementary schools next year yet.
In the CEA contract, all CEA members are required to receive a tentative placement assignment by June 30th every year, and so we will do that for our district nurses by the 30th of June. Matt Jenna is our district nursing supervisor. Of course, then with district staff, we're in constant collaboration with him to make sure that we're deeply familiar with student needs in each building, and again, to reiterate what I said a moment ago, to make sure that we are appropriately implementing all required nursing plans and meeting obligations to serve our students and keep their safety front of mind.
For 11.15, just in terms of the contract, we're 2 years from needing to renegotiate it, but just wanted to understand the capacity at Parkview relative to the CECC and just the anticipated plans for needing to maintain this additional location relative to the expansion of pre-K in Parkview. Just, are there any thoughts on what we anticipate needing or using? Is Parkview full? Is CEC full? Like, are we gonna rebalance in the future, or just wait till we have to start to think about this contract?
Next year, Parkview is likely to be full. So that was, I think, the first part of your question. Obviously, we can't always predict enrollment patterns in the future, but based on our pre-K 3s who roll into our pre-K 4s and our pre-registration numbers for incoming pre-K 3s, we will continue to meet our universe next year, and our newest Parkview site is slated to operate all 4 classrooms.
How many classrooms does CECC hold?
Also 4,
How many are filled currently?
all 4.
Okay.
From just a numbers perspective, 15 students are able to be served in a pre-K classroom. We have 2 district preschool disabled classrooms that have a maximum capacity of 12 students in each. So we have had this year and will have next year 17 total classrooms, 2 PSD, 15 Gen Ed or inclusion, and we'll be meeting our universe currently and next year as well.
So we'll meet the student enrollment demand. Will it fill all of the available preschool rooms?
Can you,
So like, would you need the 4 in CECC, 4 in Parkview, and I think 4 or 5 in Sharp? Do you need that many to meet the enrollment, or will there be a redistribution of them, is actually what I'm asking.
I will be able to answer you very concretely in mid-July, because families are continuing to register and enroll as we speak. Our wait list has been cleared currently, but we can continue to bring in more students at present. And so I can give you, the board, an update at our August meeting around that specific space usage and enrollment from pre-K.
And then I had a question about 11.31. Is there, understanding we're also reviewing the shared services agreement, as part of the rec plan, is there need to maintain 2 separate service agreements? There are 2 different agreements, I understand, but they're similar in the support of district supporting boroughs, so just wanting to know why we didn't kind of combine the custodial maintenance with the other agreement we're looking at today for 11.34. Are they merged together or going to be
they're completely different. That's why they're separate. We're cleaning the night park. The other shared service agreement goes more into the borough's usage of all of our available facilities for their rec programs. So yeah, it's just different. I just do it it's just different. So.
I have a question about 11.29, the shared service with Audubon for repairs. About how many, do we have any idea how many Chromebooks are being sent out?
I'm going to look at Patrick. I know it's in the hundreds. And you know how many Chromebooks we've sent to Audubon to fix this year? It's in the hundreds. Yeah, I think it's definitely over, I want to say close, I think it's like over 300. Because we opened the school year with over 100 being found broken.
Okay.
So it's definitely, it's in the hundreds.
100 and then whatever else. And then, because we keep hearing that there's still a lot of issues with Chromebooks and nobody can keep up, and I'm assuming that even with the shared service agreement, we could use more, so is there?
We can always use more support and tech, I'm not going to lie, and it's just the way it is. A lot of it, too, is tech gets bombarded, like, again, we opened the school year, there was a bunch of broken Chromebooks that were never reported. So we kind of started the school year behind the 8 ball, having like hundreds of Chromebooks not available because they had to be fixed. We're straightening the ship in that I think we're getting better at finding them when they're broken and sending them out quicker.
Okay.
Hopefully, as we end the school year, we'll get a better idea of what is in the classrooms and are broken and not being reported correctly, so we can get them fixed.
Okay. And do they
yeah.
work over the summer? Like,
Yes.
This is Audubon, so we can,
Yes.
if we find things over
Yep.
the summer and things, okay.
Yep, and like I said, like last year, we came back and we found like there were all kinds of like, I forget what it's called now, the chargers, the big units, that had all broken Chromebooks in that we didn't even know that they were broken. So yeah, our hope is to get caught up. Yeah, we
Kind of
work all
learning
summer though.
from that and then
Yeah,
moving
we work all
forward.
summer on it. Yep, you're welcome.
I am really excited about the shared service agreement with the borough. And looks like our playground space will be open on June 23rd, right? June 24th. Okay, June 24th, so that way the community is going to be able to access our playgrounds, and they'll be open a little bit longer as part of the shared service agreement, so I think that's great. Yeah.
I saw in the shared service agreement for the fields, right, the cost is capped at 10.5, so the borough commitment is capped at 10.5. How are we feeling in terms of that amount, given, you know, I'm sure prices are increasing or changing in the moment? Is that something that, I guess, the architects and stuff can work around?
Yes, I've already reached out to our architect. They are aware that both the borough and the board are going to be approving it. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous. But again, if the bids come up over, we just keep bidding it until we get under, or we may have to, what's the term, value engineer. But we did cut a lot out of the original ask to get to the 10.5. But he said, I hate to say this, but because of what's going on the other side of the world, it's affecting, like, you don't realize petroleum goes into all these things, right? So I honestly don't know what the prices are going to be.
Gotcha, yep. Thank
But
you.
again, I can't go over. So if the bids come in over, we just keep rebidding until we get it to a dollar amount.
And then is the plan to get bids out during the summer? Is that?
The bids, as soon as both agencies approve it, I'm gonna let the architect know, to get them out as quickly as possible.
That's really exciting, thank you.
Yep.
So am I seeing that August 24th meeting is when we're going to see a presentation on the details of this plan?
You mean the drawings, the design?
Well, it says Borough School District Partner Presentation in progress.
Yeah, that's a joint meeting. I'll let Kelly and Zika talk about that.
So we had originally invited the borough leadership to the June meeting, but 2 out of the 3 of them are not going to be in town. So we rescheduled it to the August meeting. So is there anything specific that you're looking for in terms of the plans? Can we
Oh,
send
no.
it out to everybody?
I'm
Like
just
a copy of
looking,
what that
so
looks
the
like?
shared services agreement, just, I guess, the details of what it's going to look like. We'll
Yeah.
see that in August.
So in our materials, there's a presentation of what the actual recreation mock-up is. What's removed was the, taking down the common in that playground is no longer in the plan, but everything else is remaining the same. This is really in particular to shared services of shared spaces at playgrounds, our buildings with the borough. That's step 1. Step 2 would be then what does a lease look like in those pieces. So in the materials that were included as presentation, the intention was ideally we'd have the borough leaders here to talk through anything, other details, but everything that we're looking at, you have the resolution, shared services. I think certainly as we get to, the nitty-gritty of what it's going to look like once folks start asking for space, how do we maintain getting more revenue? All of those things will be as we operationalize that, but just want to make sure that we've provided the materials that went out initially. The biggest change is the additional playground space that is no longer included in the cost and/or this agreement. So,
And Meg, all the designs and the visuals are in there already, and so you can see all that, yeah. Yeah.
I was just looking at this future date, when it said presentation. I just wasn't sure what that meant.
So this might be more for our August meeting, but I am curious for the playgrounds in the school. Who's going to be the one that locks them up at dusk? That's not this plan, that'll be what we hear in August? Like,
Our guys will do it, right? Dusk, who's locking up? Yeah, we have people
on
who are like,
weekends, like.
yeah.
Right, okay. I think that's important to iron out because as somebody that lives right behind one of the schools, obviously, they should be available, but not after dark because we all know that that's
I
probably
don't
not the
remember.
wisest. So I'm curious of who will,
I don't remember what this shared service agreement says regarding the weekend hours.
It says that they're available. I mean, we're agreeing to opening them and closing them, right? The district, this resolution is that we're agreeing to make them available, so I guess we will need to work through how do we now make sure that we get them locked appropriately.
Thank you for bringing that up and thanks, John, for clarifying that so we can figure that out before.
because if
June
that's
24th,
not figured
yeah.
out, it could accrue more costs and things like that, vandalism.
So, just to clarify, John, you're gonna reach out to Public Works? Okay, and you'll get us an update on what that conversation was? Mhm. Yeah,
I mean, is that an option that you could honestly trust community members to do? Like if you live nearby? No, not at all.
So in the other so I think part of what why I'm asking if the two agreements remain separate, like in the custodial agreement, we have evening shifts that cover Night Park. So would they also be covering the other playgrounds that are open? So that's like in that agreement, we're saying here's the custodial shifts, which would cover during the week, I guess not the weekend, even though that's probably when Night Park is used the most, but the bathrooms are locked those weekends, so if that is.
We clean it 2 nights a week, right?
Yeah.
2 nights a week is when we go to Night Park. Just 2 nights.
I was having a birthday party for my daughter, and I opened up the door and left, and then her little friend behind me, she was locked in, and we didn't realize that the big red button on the wall, because she was like, 5. So, oh yes, there was a lot of screaming and calling 911 because we didn't know if she was locked in there. Didn't know it was automatic, so now we know. I'll never forget.
so, will you reach out to, the commissioners and find out if that's a possibility on their end to keep those up and on, because that, okay, all right, thank you. Can you give the board an update once you do? Yes. Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments about this section? Okay, moving on, section 12, curriculum.
Good evening, everyone. I will share some updates at Monday's board meeting. So I'll just jump right to 12.02, which is an updated version of the 26-27 program of study for your review and approval. I'm pleased to be able to share an updated program of study with you because it means that we've been able to provide more course selection opportunities for our secondary students from the version that you originally saw in February, I want to say. So if you want to, it's attached, obviously. If you want to scroll to page 20, you'll see a few that have been highlighted in like a yellowish color. I'll pause for a second to let you skim that, and then I'll talk about how we got here. I'm sorry, 19, my bad. 19 and 20 and 21. So just logistically, you see there's about 8 or 10 things highlighted there that were not included in the first version that you reviewed and approved in February. How do we get here? So obviously there are state level graduation requirements and course requirements for students. There are local level graduation requirements and course requirements for students. And then of course we have students select their elective choices for the upcoming school year. The middle school and high school guidance team take all of that information and use that to generate course tallies to determine how many kids need to sit in a certain class in the upcoming school year and how many of those classes we need to be able to offer to meet student graduation requirements and course requirements, and then of course student interest from an elective standpoint. And once all of that shakes out over the course of quite a few weeks, it reveals for us where we are at teacher capacity or under teacher capacity. And by that I mean how many teachers are teaching their full 6 classes every day, contractually 6 classes, and where do we have any room for wiggle room and a buffer of folks who are teaching perhaps 4 or 5 based on our original plans. And so once we went through that entire exercise this year, just like we do, well, I've been here twice, so the 2 times that we've done it with me, that led us to see there was about a dozen staff members who were under their 6 classes, and that led us to re-survey students. If you'll recall, I know we're going back like 5 months ago, which feels like a year ago, but in the original program of study document that you reviewed, we had some things that were in like a grayed out box that had been offered at one point in time, but the courses haven't run in some time because of a capacity or student interest. And so when we saw that we did have some increased capacity going into next year, we re-surveyed students to see if there was interest in changing one of their course selections for something new that we were able to bring online. And so digital photography was hugely popular when we surveyed students a few weeks ago. Other things that we brought into the mix were computer science options, public speaking, journalism we surveyed, and creative writing. I believe those were the 5 that we re-polled students to see which was the most popular and the least, and how could we fit that into our program offerings for next year based on student interest and student voice and advocacy, as you've heard from students who I think really strongly advocated for our computer science program. And of course, we've heard over the years about other areas of interest from kids. And so we're pleased to be able to update and revise our program of study directly in response to that feedback from kids, frankly. And so that is what you have before you to reapprove next week. And you'll notice, I think when we showed you this document back in February, that those charts on page 19, 20, and 21 are helpful because you'll see in some instances we were able to bring it in as a semester-based class but not a full year, and just trying to be as creative as possible with teacher minutes and staff capacity while also balancing student interest and needs. And then of course, as a part of this, doesn't live in the program of study, but we need teachers to run study halls and monitor hallways and bathrooms and lunches, and greet students in the morning and dismiss them safely in the afternoon. So we call those duties. Those are all parts of a teacher's potential 6 classes in their assigned schedule that help us to run a safe and happy building. I can pause for questions before I go on to the next few items around 12.02.
So these new offerings, did they get a lot of enrollment from the students? Are they definitely running?
Digital photography will be running, yes. That was the most popular. I believe 59 students, don't quote me on it, somewhere 50 plus, not 60, but somewhere in the mid-50s. And then public speaking was the second most popular. Dr. Walkham, I'm doing this from memory. Accurate? That is accurate. Great. good point. That is accurate. And so,
The program's still gonna run, though.
sorry.
Okay.
So students had chosen their classes, but then they were told after that these were now available, so then there was a,
Students made their initial course selections back in January, February, and then in the last 3 weeks, going through that process that I described, we resurveyed students to say, hey, we know you picked your classes before, but now we have this, 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 and this to offer. Do you want to swap something that you picked in lieu of something else? And that's what Dr. Walker was just describing.
Can I just ask a quick question? Digital photography and public speaking were in the course of study in February. So how those seem like they were there in like kind of the universe of options initially. It's the computer science items that seem new, even though those are highlighted. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding, because two of the one you just asked about was already there. So I want to make sure I'm understanding the recasting, because the only net new from at least my very quick review are the ones added under this first section around career and tech ed. So just want to make sure I'm understanding everything highlighted. There was a change. Two of them seem to have already been there, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding how we
That's a good,
recast it.
yeah, that's a good question. So the new that didn't exist in any capacity in the first version that you saw are the computer science courses listed on page 19. You are correct that digital photography, public speaking, et cetera, was included in the program of study that you approved. It was grayed out because we didn't think we would have the capacity to run it, and so we didn't even elicit student feedback because we didn't think we were going to have any teacher capacity to fit those courses in. And so we keep it in the program of study because we have curriculum written for it. In the instance of digital photography, we have the equipment for the class to run. And so given those factors, we included that when we resurveyed students to see if there was interest, given that we have the teacher capacity and the materials and the curricula.
Oh, okay. So I just want to make a comment. So thank you for bringing back or bringing to the, course offerings, all the computer science. So for everybody, advocacy actually works sometimes. So thank you for listening to everybody and being able and flexible to bring that back. I really appreciate that, and it really is nice to see that our student voices, can make an impact at least some of the time. My other question, did we have to lose anything based on just from the first one? I should do like a compare, put them both there. Was there anything, I'm sure that did we have any courses that we had to take off from what we originally put in February? And is that, maybe just slow, like, we didn't have enough enrollment, whatever it is, didn't have the teachers, and I can, when I get home, do a compare and contrast, but I just wasn't sure if there was anything glaring that you remembered that we had
Great
to take off.
question. I can pull up, I want to speak accurately to you because there were some classes that had extremely low enrollment. We're talking 3 or 4 kids. And I believe those are the only instances in which we would not be running the course. Dana, chime in. 1. Yeah.
Just because we didn't have enough interest.
I think
this
there were
year.
3 students. Our supervisor went physically room to room to encourage kids who were who were taking Spanish 4, Spanish 5, and encourage them to lean into it. But I think it's something that we have a new. This is our second year. Like, we have a growing, increasingly veteran Spanish teaching staff, and I think this is a program that, with some continued publicity and that we will get there over time. The teacher was ready, willing, and able to take the summer training and do all of the steps necessary. So I feel very confident that will be a future option. It's just not quite yet. Yeah.
So the computer science classes that are listed, is this like a full computer science program that is being re-implemented? Yes, okay.
So, how we will facilitate this is just to explain, I think, what this will look like for students. Is we partner with a company called Edmentum. It's an online learning platform that Collingswood High School has used for a number of years for a variety of purposes. And they offer a wide variety of courses that we don't have the capacity to, some of which we have already in-house, but oftentimes that we don't have the capacity to run ourselves. And obviously, you all may recall hearing feedback from students and staff and others with regard to the virtual high school experience that we attempted this year, which was like truly students' independent learning online with AP Calc, AP Spanish, AP Physics. And it did not work out well. And so what we're not going to do is repeat the same thing and expect a different outcome, obviously. And so how we're going to structure this differently is we're assigning this group of computer science classes to a teacher as a facilitator of the class. Teacher's not going to teach 6 different computer science classes, obviously, but they will be in a classroom with a teacher who's there both to support their online learning and to support them with general support from a content perspective. That is not something that we had in place this year with the virtual high school classes that I was referencing a few moments ago. And we saw kids struggle and reach frustration points and in some cases drop that class. And so we don't want to repeat that same frustration type of exercise for kids. And so we feel like this is a good way to move forward of like meeting student interest, offering the classes, and partnering that with an actual teacher of record assigned to that class to be the person, the main point of contact for kids' needs.
Does that teacher need a special certification for computer science?
Yeah, there are a variety of certifications that you could have to teach that sort of class, and that teacher does have that.
So they're not actually teaching the class, they're just there to support the kids that are taking the online class. Okay. And with the AP Calc and Spanish and Physics, that were those online classes the same program as this program?
No.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, so what certification will the teacher in the computer science class have?
I believe I can answer that for you in 1 second because we confirmed that, if you give me a second. Engineering teacher, but he has a specific cert that aligns to this content. If you want the specifics, Megan, I can check for you.
Is this an extra class that this person has to teach outside of his normal?
No,
Okay.
it's within the 6 contractually.
Okay.
Are students told what classes are online and are there before they register so they, can know that that's what they want? And are there any additional besides the computer programming ones that are online? Just the 3?
Nope, just the,
Or all the web game?
correct, yep. And if you pick, anyone can do it right now, pick one of the computer science ones, they're hyperlinks. If you click, game development as an example, you'll see the course description and that it explains that it's an online course so that kids and families understand what they're choosing and how it will be offered. Yep, and as you can see, we picked a variety of courses with the goal being that just like several other of our CTE pathways, our hope would be that students persist through this and move through the content over time if this is a real passion of theirs and something that they want to pursue post-secondary. So just like we link up Spanish 1 through Spanish 5 and AP Spanish, this could be a course, a pathway that students set out and persist with over the years.
Speaking of the engineering courses, there have been some concerns that the engineering program needs certain materials and things like that in order to be able to carry out the content of those courses. Can you give us any feedback as to where we are in that situation? I just know there's been some concerns from students and parents about materials and things like that. Like, is everything, like the, okay.
Around engineering specifically?
I'll get, and I don't have my notes on me. I'll get some details on that for the next meeting. Thank you.
Please, yeah, for sure. Oh, go ahead, Megan.
Can I ask about, we've heard students, concerns about the TV program and, Wi-Fi and, technology needs and things like that. Where are we in that situation? And can any of that be rectified just in terms of editing capacity and, Wi-Fi connectivity and things like that?
A lot of those issues were the fact that the Apple units needed to be updated, but we couldn't get to them to update them because the kids are using them during the day. So my understanding is hopefully we can get to them over the summer and get all the Apple updates and make sure everything is up and running. But it was kind of like the kids are working on it, but we'd have to take the unit away from them to update and put all the Apple stuff on there. Was kind of the issue.
Thank you.
Financial literacy is also an online course. That would be the only other. Sorry, just to correct my answer from earlier. Okay. If there are no other questions around program of study, items 12.03, 12.04, 12.05 are field trips that have occurred since the May board meeting until now, and so you'll see those are all backdated. There are medical home instruction placements, item 12.06, excuse me, and that is all.
All right, I'll hop into personnel. Is everybody good? Okay. Item 13.01 is a listing of all the substitutes and tutors for 26-27 for teachers, aides, secretaries, nurses, everybody. Item 13.02 is the travel expense form for the month of June. 13.03 is a resignation. 13.04 is a resignation. 13.05 is a resignation. 13.06 is FMLA. For an employee, they plan to return to their position on June 24th. 13.07 is paid leave of absence under FMLA from September 1st through September 10th, and then unpaid from September 11th through December 7th. And then an extended unpaid leave from from the December approval through January 29th. And that employee plans to return on February 1st. Items 13.08 and 13.09 are mine and Meredith's contracts. They did go to the state for review and approval, so the approval letters are attached to the agenda items. 13.10 is approving a preschool teacher. 13.11 is approving another preschool teacher. 13.12 is approving a high school math teacher. 13.13 is approving a high school science teacher. 13.14 is approving a child study team administrative assistant position. It's a replacement. 13.15 is a long-term substitute replacement secretary. That person's going to work through June 22nd. 13.16 is a listing of the staff transfers and reassignments. The paper copies have an error, but Eli and Mark Peters, obviously Eli's music, but in the printed copies it is incorrect, but it's correct online. 13.17 is approving the staff listed to receive stipends and for their work with the Special Olympics Unified Schools Grant during the school year. The next item, 13.18, authorizes the superintendent to offer employment contracts and to continue to hire during the summer months. We will bring it to the board in August, just like I do with the bills. 13.19 is approving unpaid social work interns under the supervision of Kirsten Plath to work next school year. 13.20 is approving staff to provide WIDA screenings over the summer. WIDA, I'm sorry. You can tell I don't know what it is. 13.21 is approving elementary non-athletic stipends for next school year. 13.22 is approving EDP adjustments for the 25-26 school year for detention. 13.23 is approving 26-27 high school non-athletic EDPs. And attached to the agenda item under the admin section are the dollar amounts to go with all the activities. 13.24 is middle school non-athletic stipends. 13.25 is high school athletic stipends. 13.26 is approving the two nurses as listed to come in and evaluate and process sports physicals during the months of July and August. 13.27 is approving summer MTSS staff hours. 13.28 is approving the following two staff members to assist with summer projects related to elementary curriculum projects. Yeah.
That's going to be adjusted. Those are our counselors and social workers. We're going to clean up the language before Monday.
13.29 is approving the following two staff members to teach course overloads in accordance with the contract. 13.30 is approving, and we will have this for Monday, but this is a holding pattern. We'll have a list of staff that have been approved to write and develop the 26-27 curriculum. We're still waiting for, I think they had till today or tomorrow to apply. 13.31 is approving a student from Stockton University to complete her speech language practicum. 13.32 is approving the 2026 ESY program staff. 13.33 is to approve the summer-related services staff. This is on an as-needed basis for IEP meetings and any assessments or case management issues during the summer. 13.34 is approving the two staff people listed for summer CST for IEP meetings, assessment, and case management. 13.35 is approving this one specific staff member, obviously for summer CST. 13.36 is approving a school psychology intern to complete evaluations on an as-needed basis during the summer. 13.37 is approving the educator practice rubrics as required by administrative code. Charlotte Danielson, the 2022 framework, and that's for everybody listed. And that is it for personnel.
So what we don't see, and I know why, is middle school athletic stipends. Can you guys give us an update on where we are with that and costs? When
As an
we'll know?
administrative team, we're meeting again on Monday. We've met twice. We sent a survey out to the middle school families to kind of gauge, because right now the fee is $100. So we wanted to kind of gauge what the families were feeling as far as the price point, because logistically, I'm just going to be honest, we were having a hard time getting to that dollar amount, whether we didn't want to overburden the families with the fees. So we've met twice as an administrative team. We're going to meet again on Monday. Hopefully, we can narrow in on the price point that we can then bring back to the board and say, this is what we came up with. We wanted to get feedback from the families that it was affecting directly. So that survey went out, I think 2 weeks ago. So we're meeting again on Monday, and that's why it's not on here, because we want to make sure that what we send out is feasible for people.
Okay, so is this going to be added to the Monday, or we're going to have to wait until August? Because August meeting is like 2 weeks before school starts.
We won't have it for Monday, but we'll make sure families know well in advance. We'll let the board know too. Like we'll clue everybody in, but we don't have we met and we couldn't balance the dollar amount that we need for the budget with the number of families, because we actually broke it out. How many, is it a 1-sport family, a 2-sport family, 3-sport, theater, band, all the different dollar amounts. So we met as a team, and we didn't want the price point to be too high to discourage people. Then there was discussion of what to do with economically disadvantaged families. Do we provide a discount, or is it free? So we had a lot of robust discussions amongst ourselves and also with the middle school staff, middle school leaders, and even amongst the 6 of us, we couldn't land. So then we sent the survey out to kind of see where families felt they could land. We're going to meet again on Monday, but we want to get it out to the families as quickly as possible, obviously for planning purposes. But
So when this was first presented, and I know things change, but it was presented as every activity would have a different price point. So because we know that certain things cost more, certain sports, obviously bigger teams should be a smaller price, et cetera, et cetera. So are you looking to change that? Are you looking for a sport fee per sport, per activity? Like, where are we kind of?
we looked at everything, right? So we know like football was like the most expensive. So and we looked at the most expensive options, obviously being like the theater band program and football were probably the 2 most. But yeah, right. But I mean and then it was, we have some kids that participate every season and one that participate in one. So you penalize the child that participates in one sport versus somebody who's doing 3. So that's kind of why we sent the survey out. Was kind of just to gauge it. I think we're leaning towards like a tiered, depending on the activity and the number of activities. But I don't want to speak for the group. I want to see what the survey results. I haven't seen them.
Thinking if somebody does one sport, or activity, it's gonna be a set price. If you do 2 or more, like.
Yeah, that's kind of where we landed, and then it was like the price point for it. Thus the survey. So we'll know on Monday, but that was kind of where we landed because some students participate in all year round and others just do one. So it doesn't seem right to penalize the one. But we don't have anything yet. But
So
again, we're
when
meeting
are-
again on Monday.
So, we've approved a budget assuming this is moving to pay to play. So when will we know what that's gonna look like? I can appreciate the survey, but I'm just trying to make sure, right? Like a family who does every season will leave the school year not knowing if they're gonna continue that. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand. And also, can you share what portion of activities fees are we collecting today? Do we get 100% of them, 80% of them, 50% of them? And like, how will we ensure we get paid for all of these activities, particularly given that the model's getting increasingly more complex?
I can answer the second half of that question. I did meet with staff from the high school, middle school, because we are not collecting everything we should be collecting. And that is a breakdown in the process. So that will be corrected. We spoke with our provider, Genesis. I know when people pay, we can flag it in Genesis, right? So that we know if they've paid. They have a lunch application, whether they paid for activity fees. What is not happening is when kids sign up, nobody's checking to make sure that they've paid their activity fee. So we're closing that gap this year. They're going to have to say, like, if there's a roster of kids, or somebody's got to go in and check to make sure that they paid their fee. Somebody's got to close that gap. That has not been happening. So that's also adding a little bit to the burden. So we have not been collecting 100% of what we should be collecting. So hopefully that'll get fixed going into next school year, because I have met with the staff.
So we're not gonna close the gap for this year? We're just gonna, right, I guess today we know which families are technically owe us a fee. Are they gonna get a notification before the end of the year? I mean, almost like the lunch balance thing, like how are we telling people, I think is something we've talked about at least this year and last year. So I'm just trying to make sure that we've added a layer of complexity, it appears, and we need to make sure we're accounting for filling the gap that we have approved to exist. So I just want to make sure I'm clear, like how are we going to see that over time, I guess, is what I'm trying to wrap my head around.
So I'll answer that. All of those questions are valid and all of them are noted. Our goal is to make sure that families in July receive information about the updated or the revised fee structure. In terms of the financial collections, that's a more complicated discussion that needs to happen offline. There are specific rules and regulations that we have to abide by, and then there are other circumstances that we're going to need feedback from the board in order for us to be able to make a decision. And so we would love to bring some of those to our next meeting, our next check-in.
Dr. McDowell, when you say offline, so when will that conversation happen?
We meet with board leadership weekly, and so during our next meeting.
And so we won't approve the stipends for middle school until August? Yes. Okay.
So what happens if we don't have the money for a sport? Like, I need to be walked through this because sports start like 2 weeks after school school begins, if not earlier. So,
We start in August,
Yeah.
like, really.
so I mean, if kids are gonna have to, like, walk me through the process because I think there's a lot missing and we're expecting all families to take on the burden, not know until maybe July. And then when is the price, when do they have to pay? When are there going to be staff that's hired, for those positions? When will we know if things aren't running? Maybe there's not enough to fill a soccer team. When will we know? I mean, these things, we've been talking about this for a couple months. So when I got that survey 2 weeks ago, I was very surprised that we were just now asking families this, even though we've talked about this for a while. So I'm really interested in the specifics of how this is going to go, because this isn't anything new. And I'm curious of how we're going to start sports at the end of August, when at the middle of June, we don't have any plan.
I will say again, we have a upcoming check-in with board leadership. We need to have some additional conversations. We're not prepared to have that discussion this evening.
Okay.
So we will follow up with them, and then we will get to you guys. Okay.
And I'd like to chime in and say that this is, I think, is a very obvious cost that our community is going to have to bear one way or the other, right? We either pay taxes so that we don't have to calculate how much every single individual family or student has to pay for individual activities, or we have to go through a more complicated administrative procedure that takes longer and has uncertainty. So in the end, this is, again, why I think it's really important for us as a board to be working towards bringing in more revenue for the district, is because in the end, the burden will lie on the community one way or the other.
So I want to add one additional component, and so just so that we're all on the same page, the gap is roughly $150,000. There is no pathway to be able to collect $150,000 through fees, and so we do not want to lay that at the feet of our families and our students, which is why this is so complicated. And so there are some considerations that we're going to need direct feedback from the board before we get out in front of our families, of what we can live with and the trade-offs associated with that. And so we just need more time. And so if we need a hard and fast, our goal is by July 15th to have all of the details worked out. Families will be notified of said change. The athletic department, which works throughout the summer, will go through the hiring process. There are coaches that are already in the queue, and so we're not starting from scratch. The goal is for communication from selected coaches who will be notified during the summer. They'll be approved in August, but they'll be notified in July for the communication to still be able to move forward so that students and families are able to receive the benefits from athletics. And so, but it is an extremely complex space to be in, and we don't want to make assumptions about affordability or lack thereof, but I want to be really, really clear. The gap in terms of the $150,000 will not be satisfied with any type of revised fee structure that is fair and equitable to our families, and so that's what's complicating this. And so we need to work through the details with board leadership first. We will then communicate with board in order to gain consensus before we decide to move forward. But we don't have all of those answers today. We should have more information after our meeting on Monday, and by middle to the end of next week, we should have some more concrete plans.
Okay. I appreciate all of that. Thank you from both of you. I think that this is something new for us, obviously. This is not something we want to do for any of us. But I do appreciate Maggie's perspective of just wanting to get the information out to families and have that set in place, because there do seem to be a lot of unknowns. So coming into our next meeting, I just want to let you know that there's some things that I would like to have information on are, can we get an accurate account of how much we're collecting now? Can we have an idea of who or if there's going to be a point person that's going to be collecting the money? Like, is that going to be the coach's responsibility? Is that going to be? Okay, okay. But we talked about having a roster and having people check off who's paid, like, who's going to be responsible for checking that off. Okay. And then, what are we going to do about the people that are on free and reduced lunch and, need, and have some economic disadvantages there? And that's about it for right now, but if I think of more questions, I will email them. Okay. And again, thank you for your patience and trying to understand where we're all coming from and asking the questions and getting some answers as much as possible, even though we may not have all that right now. I appreciate the effort from everybody. All right, anybody have any other questions about this section? All right, moving on.
Right, next section, policies. We don't have any first reads, but in item 14.02, there are 2 policies up for a second read. Policy 2365, acceptable use of generative AI, and policy 8461, reporting violence and vandalism. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them since the first read, so after Monday they will become policy. We have no regulations at this time. And then item 15 is...
So, sorry, for section 14, we were going to put the amendment to our committee structure on for us to discuss in this meeting. I didn't realize it wasn't included. I've been in the...
I don't remember.
So policy 0155, we wanted to move it back to, discuss an amendment to the policy. We're currently structured, we updated in December 2025 to a committee of the whole structure. And my motion was to amend it back to the version we had approved from September 2003 with the ability to create specific standing committees. So I know I'd emailed, but I didn't have time to, I missed that it was not included on our list, so.
So I think we just want to have a discussion on moving back into our regular committee structure. So does anybody have any comments or anything that they want to talk about or anything that they want to discuss?
So I guess I'll just tee up my intention of doing the motion to amend is that I will offer and try to reflect on the ability to ask and have a dialogue and discourse in committee. While I will say that I can appreciate sometimes we come to the table and folks would say I wasn't involved or didn't see that. I think we're still having almost the same experience, but it's even more public back and forth in a way that, frankly, as we do this commitment for a civility project, we should also think about like how the meetings run, the tone, the tenor, the ability to ask questions without them being inferred as going too far. In committee structure, you have a bit more of an informal dialogue that is, I have observed, much more productive, and we have a lot of work before us. Let us say that. Right, frankly, before we had a standing meeting around student activities, and probably that committee could have helped us with the planning around moving to pay-to-play, buildings and grounds. We were selling a school, so we should have an intentional committee thinking about buildings and grounds and finance. Personnel, right? We've made some substantive changes that a committee structure that can meet frequently, often, and have just a dialogue that is easier to manage, I would offer, is something that I think we would, I see value in. I also would say that requires that everybody has the time and capacity to review the summaries and materials. Even in our current structure, it's tough because we aren't at the, we don't have full visibility into the agenda, so it will allow just a lot more time to get through having our agenda really clear, that we're all prepared, ready, we understand it, we're not asking, almost interviewing everybody who creates an agenda topic in this forum. And then the last is just like capacity. I think Megan and I were both worried about more time, and frankly, I think we're spending more time between offline and in this forum than we did when we were in committee. And meaning we're spending a lot of time repeating the same question or asking it again and bringing things month over month, and I felt that the committee structure helped us to have productive conversations for things that really probably just need a smaller group to think through it and then reach out to their colleagues. So that is my intention around the motion to amend and move us back into a committee structure. I don't think it diminishes any information sharing or visibility into the work we need to do, but we have a lot of it to do, and so we'd just be able to get a lot more moving, because now we have ad hoc committees in addition to all of the committees almost, and we have, right, so we have so many ad hocs, we're almost back to a committee structure plus committee of the whole plus our actual regular committee. That is our reality right now. And so it would probably ground us in having these structures already in place. We would be able to be a bit more nimble. So.
I am not opposed to this at all, but I do want to make it a point to say that I think one of the benefits to having this committee structure is the agenda and the posting of the agenda for the public to see, so the public is able to see and hear what we're going to be talking about and voting on in a week in advance or 5 days in advance. And I think that that's been helpful. And I think that we should make sure that we're posting the agenda as early as possible, even if it has to be revised for the public to be able to see that. Just making that point.
Considering how many members we're missing tonight, is this something that maybe you're planning on talking about on Monday during the public meeting or executive session before the meeting? Or, I think this does warrant a discussion. I'm just wondering when that discussion can happen.
Also, this would go up for a possible first read, so people can definitely add in their opinions, and, it would come up for a second read. It would take a couple of months.
Okay,
to
so
get that,
this is going to be like a policy structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
thank
is
you.
a policy change. Yes, and so I just would offer, while folks are not here, I shared in 2 weeks of updates that this is something that we were proposing, we just didn't catch the meeting agenda, so it's not, and it's specifically the change back to one to the other, so haven't really heard anything offline, so certainly this is the forum, even those who are not here should be reaching out with their perspectives in advance, and I will offer committee of the whole or back to committee structure. That is the type of engagement we will need, online, offline, and because this particular topic, I think, since our last meeting I've put out there for us to be prepared to start to think about. So I will transparently say no one has said anything in response to date, so that's just for awareness if that was a question.
Sure, I appreciate that, but I thought this was happening last month and then it was pulled, so I wasn't sure this was still a conversation that was definitely going forward.
Okay. I understand I'm glad we tried this way. I don't like this way. I don't think we can actually talk the way we would want to discuss some hard topics sometimes. There's often a lot of questions that we can't get answered in public. So I would appreciate going back to smaller committee meetings. Also would agree that I think we should post some type of, even if it's not full or, completed and final, we should post an agenda more than kind of 12 hours before our meetings moving forward, if that's how we're going to do it.
I have a little something written up about this that I was going to bring up earlier in committee of the whole, but I think we skipped over that. Let's talk about segregation for a little bit. This is what I see. This is me as an Oakland representative coming in and sitting in on this board for the last year and a half. We're a school board, and it's our duties to fight for what's best for the students and the faculty first. It's clear to me that the board is extremely segregated, and neither side is willing to try to fight through the foggy windows to see each other's sides of their decisions. So nobody will, we've seen it over and over. We've had 50-50 votes. We've had, well, I'll get into it. This has been clearly seen by recent votes as well as committee structures. In Oak Lynn, the president always asked people at the beginning of the year what committees they would like to be on. And then he takes that, or she takes that, information and then, works on it and tries to put everybody together as he sees fit. Here, I've not seen anyone ask me to be on a committee at all, including the regionalization committee. And that goes, I think, for Chris as well. Like, it seems like it's a forced committee structure, so if you want to do committee structure, make it viable and not segregated. So, that's all I got for that.
And I will offer right now, so the policy that I'm recommending we go back to would be the process where everyone gets asked, what would you like? And there's an appointment for the year for that committee. So that isn't our current structure, ad hoc stuff. I think we had one meeting and then none on the regionalization stuff, so totally understand and would offer, everybody
The same
would
goes
need
for
the
the
same.
referendum committee.
Yeah, so.
The referendum committee that sent out the most worthless survey I've ever seen, that was not invited to me or Chris or anyone else. It was a set committee, I think, by one of you, and then that's it.
Okay.
So I'll chime in. I actually think that the committee of the whole has been working wonderfully, because and I want to echo what Mr. McMillan said, which is that we have divisions across our board, and I think it's important for the community to be able to see the different sides being argued and being discussed. I think we there's this discussion about how right now we have committees and committee of the whole. I mean, the thing is, there's nothing within the policy and the structure of committee of the whole that dictates we have to have committees. I think the only committee that we have to have is one to hear grievances when they come up. That's really the only one that we have to have. For me, what's interesting is I do think that the committee of the whole is an evolution for us when we think about all of the feedback that has been, frankly, yelled at us as a board over the last several years. Last time we went out for a referendum, we were told by many folks in the public, and including, I think, folks on this board, that decisions were being made behind closed doors, that discussions were being held behind closed doors, that people were being left out of discussions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So why would we want to go back to having these discussions behind closed doors? I don't know why we don't just talk about the referendum here as a committee of the whole. And I'll bring this up, from, I think, last committee of the whole, I think I was also pushing for us to have as much of a discussion as we can about all of these topics in public. And the only piece that we can't really have a discussion about is specific discussions about individual personnel. Everything else has to be talked about in public when we're together as a group. There's no other legal way for us as a quorum or above to discuss these matters. I mean, that's just by law. Our time commitment is, 2-3 hours on 1 week, and then 2-3 hours the next week for the board meeting. I mean, I remember when we were doing committees, one committee meeting would probably take like an hour and a half. And then if you were the second committee meeting of the night, you'd have to sit there waiting until, the board president or whoever texts you and says, okay, we're ready to go. This to me works operationally a lot smoother. And in the end, I think for us, it takes a commitment from all of us to be part of this committee of the whole. I mean, we just closed the school. Of course, we should be spending a ton of time on the school board. It's not like things here are all sunshine and rainbows. We have a lot of work to do. And so an argument that this is taking time or whatever, for me, doesn't really hold water. So again, I want to go back to saying that I think this has been working great in terms of we've all been able to have conversations together. There's no reason why we have to have ad hoc committees. And again, I'm thinking back to our last referendum where, once again, we were told that, and actually even, I would say, in the fall this past year when we had guests to the board who told us that decisions were being made behind closed doors. Again, here we have a committee of the whole where we as a whole board, a whole unit can discuss together, and we don't have to shy away from our disagreements. We should engage in them so that the community can see that these choices are not easy, but ones that we have spent a long time talking through. And I think that's really important because what you'll see over and over again is people will say, oh, you all just showed up to a board meeting and just voted. Well, that's why we need to show that, yes, these are very difficult decisions that we're willing to talk through and disagree on, and then come to, in the end, to vote on. And so I'd be against going back to the committee structure, and I think that this has been working great in terms of transparency and just having everyone engaged in discussion.
And speaking of the referendum, what, did we skip 3.01 for a reason without having any open topic with anyone? Because it went right by.
I think that was, so I just wanted to make two comments and say, some of what my observation is, we've really lost a lot of our how we engage with each other, how we are willing to hear differing opinions, has frankly been lost in this group in our meetings, right? No one is allowed to really not agree and then gets grilled if they want to ask a question, or your question's deemed to be sometimes too far, some are not that far. It depends, and to the separation of this board, that is true, right? I will use it for instance. We've been able to say, well, that price of this item is way higher than I'm expecting, but when somebody else asks a question about, well, why are we doing this allocation for this person, it's deemed too far, we're administrating, but another minute, another group is not. So that division is real. And some of this is that we were trying to get a lot of work done in parallel, and certainly happy to spend much more time on the referendum work and all of what we need to do. I don't think anybody's shying away from those conversations. I will offer how we engage, and the type of dialogue has been very difficult for me to even personally feel or hear or see post watching every meeting, that we're actually willing to have a civil, balanced conversation, right? So that's actually some of why how we show up in the committee of the whole, how we have conversation is deeply unproductive at times, right? And so that's really, I am all for, let's talk about it, let's do all the work, but we have to change how we're talking with each other instead of instead of at, and being willing to hear each other, because everybody gets dished out some feedback about how they're doing it, and some of us have to just adjust or just keep getting told you're not doing it the right way. So I'm actually totally fine, but I am asking that we show up in a different way with how we go back and forth in this discussion, because it is deeply unproductive. And I will actually outright apologize for the perception that we aren't being inclusive or trying to figure out like how many people and how to have Collingswood own its portion of carrying the water and bringing folks along. So I will be totally honest that I don't think anybody was intending a version of segregating or slighting members of this board. So I will apologize personally. That is definitely not my intention, or Kelly or mine. We were trying to balance perspectives, experiences, right? So who's been in these conversations or not, and so preceding us, because as you all have heard, we are kind of making sure we're doing our best to bring us along through really difficult decisions that have been just not on our roadmap to date. So that is, I will own that is not how it was intended to feel or be perceived. Because that is never the intention, but certainly happy to keep it in this structure. It needs to become much more productive and easier to get through our topics, like the adults we are, who are modeling behavior hopefully for children and others.
Just to go to a couple of points you made. First, yeah, I completely agree with you that this kind of structure raises the bar for the behavior that we need to show as a board, myself included. I'm not holding myself out as any kind of exception to that. I think the right thing to do is for us as board members to rise to that, not to re-lower the bar. So, and the second thing, and I'll gently correct my colleague, Mr. McMillan, we were invited to an ad hoc committee. I think specifically, and he and I have spoken about this, one of the things that came off as very, I don't know if disingenuous is the right word, or very dismissive of Mr. McMillan and I, is that there was another ad hoc committee that was going on, which then pivoted to a regionalization committee that we were not made aware of or present at. and we saw notes about the committee meeting afterwards via the board email, and bit my tongue, let it go, but that was wholly inappropriate and kind of signals where Collingswood board members think of in terms of Oakland and Woodland.
Are we at open forum right now? Can we,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
can
so
I continue?
I think that, I think what you're referring to is the initial meeting about the feasibility study. And it was recommended that we meet with, the Oakland leaders. Yeah, I mean, I would like,
Different ad hoc committee meeting. It wasn't the regionalization. And then at the end of that, it was decided to pivot to talking about regionalization. And the only way that Mr. McMillan and I were made aware of that were by notes that were sent out by board leadership after the meeting.
I'm not aware of what you're talking about, but I would encourage you to say, like, if there is something, Chris, like in the future, please don't hold back on that. Please let us know immediately if there's something that, that we did that wasn't,
Clear.
yeah,
upfront.
exactly, yeah.
I recall. I mean, the initial regionalization concept came out of having gone to the luncheon, and then it was Sarah, Danielle, myself, and Kelly had a quick conversation, and then I don't know that we met more than once, and so I will certainly go back through the update that was sent, because I don't know that I sent that one, but I will certainly look, and I think what you're hearing from Zakia is that was not an intentional view, and frankly, I will say that the agenda itself can be adjusted to make sure we have the space and time to talk about the topics that are critical let's talk about our operating referendum, that needs to be agenda topic, talk about Garfield sale, redistribution facilities plan. More than happy to make sure, and I'm gonna ask that we make sure that those are specific and discrete agenda topics going forward. So that is either direction. Part of the goal is to bring it up here to hear what people are thinking. I would have loved to have known that there were these feelings preceding bringing this up here, because I have not heard personally from anyone, and I'm fine with that, but it, it would have been great to get that feedback sooner
So
rather than
I
later.
just wanted to put the
I'm
point out,
just
we
gonna
don't need
say
the
that, yeah.
apologies, we don't need to cover everything up, it was just, I wanted to make the point, and then we can talk about it through emails or whatever. But
Or
that's
in
the- that's
person,
the-
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the,
that's
yeah.
fine. Yes, oh, I got it, that meeting was, yep, got it.
Pivoted to a regionalization ad hoc committee.
Got it.
Two of the members of the committee not being informed the discussion was.
Got it. That's fair. Yeah, that wasn't the intention, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have
How
to get
that
in the
was summarized
details of,
was not-
like,
yeah,
the weeds of the
that's fair.
details, that's fine. I was just making my point that, yeah.
No, that's,
No, I didn't think you were factual, I just wasn't sure what you were talking about. But again, in the future, if there's something that happens like that, believe me, I would like to know about it if there's something there, so, yeah.
Pivoting a little bit from the segregation conversation, which, to be fair, I think that that's been an issue on this board for a while. And I don't think that is just something that happened this year. So if it is something that maybe we can all agree to rise above, that sounds like a good idea, because I'll just leave it at that. But when, back in December, I tried to bring up that there were going to be some possible hiccups to just going from a committee structure to a committee of the whole structure without sitting down and having meetings to decide how would this work and what would we do about personnel situations, and should we have executive sessions with maybe our board attorney to kind of figure out going into this situation, how it would best work out. And the response to that was, quite frankly, accusations of going back on campaign promises and not wanting to be transparent and things like that. And now here we are in June, and I think we all see, well, some of us see that there are hiccups. And, I would suggest that if we stay in this structure, I do agree that I think there are some issues. And, my gut reaction was, yep, let's go back to the other way, but I can see the committee of the whole structure being productive as well with some modifications. So I will go back to my suggestion from back in December that perhaps we could talk about having some kind of a meeting with our board attorney present to figure out, okay, what are the topics that cannot come up so that we don't have another situation where we're here asking questions about budgetary decisions and we have to like pull the cord and go into executive session in the middle of a meeting, to like kind of go into it, understanding that that might be a problem and just being prepared. So I would offer that again.
I would actually agree with Ms. Mikulski about having the attorney come out and clarify what topics we can talk about in executive sessions and what topics we must talk about in public. That's a conversation we actually can't have in executive session, just to be clear. From my perspective, again, I think I would argue that the only hiccup that we've seen with committee as a whole is that we as board members are uncomfortable because we have to stand by and defend our beliefs and our positions. I think that is really the only hiccup that I've seen from committee as a whole. And I think that's something that we have to be willing to do. It's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. It says we're putting out our ideas, our beliefs, where not everyone's going to agree with us at all. We're not going to agree with each other, and that's fine. But we have to be willing to be uncomfortable and to sit in that uncomfortableness and discuss through these pieces, because again, our community needs to see that we are engaging truthfully in these issues. I don't think having us discuss and question each other and each other's questions as well is a problem. I think we have to be able to sit here, be willing to defend what we believe in.
So look, my intention was to have a conversation because clearly there's been energy around, like, is this going well? And we haven't had the space. I'm actually saying how we do it. I'm not suggesting that we need to go back into some secret forum, whatever. That is not the intention. It is just how, because it doesn't feel productive all the time. It feels more vitriolic than I think anybody's intending their question to become. It becomes, and so that's really, it's the how we're asking questions and how we're being forthright with if this didn't sit well and saying that in the time versus holding on to it for months and not bringing it to anybody's attention. Because you can't fix something you won't talk about. And so I'm simply making a recommendation because I guess when I was sitting in committee, it felt a little less vitriolic and like at each other's throats in a committee structure that I am seeing in our committee of the whole structure. That's really all I am bringing forward. I'm not suggesting I preferred it over it. Just that I preferred the discourse much more because we saw each other's people and we were open to hearing each other. So I guess that's the difference that I'm hoping we can either strike a balance in how we engage with each other that was actually just more respectful and amicable instead of just battle mode, which sometimes this table seems to elicit that kind of energy that I was hoping we can work through. I'm gonna make a recommendation, and so part of it was to talk about the amendment. I certainly don't need to waste our time going and voting on something if we can kind of all hear that, like, we made a pledge about civility, so let's really think through what that looks like. But I do think our agenda structure has to help us have topics brought forward in a more intentional way. And so we'll certainly have to, and I think we've been working with Ann and Lord to figure out, like, how do we just say, like, make the time for the referendum, make the time for these topics instead of them being within another topic, because we've kept the structure we had preceding this. So I think we can make our agendas much more intentional to talk about certain topics. And I guess and will own possibly serving everybody to see how is the structure going, what are the missteps, would have been an easier way to get people's feedback. So I will try to synthesize that some more because it's been several months and it would have been nice to hear, like, hey, we've made this misstep that frankly is a misstep, so it would have been nice to course correct sooner than hearing it right now, but I'm happy to know that I've got to get better at doing stuff. And so I am asking that we are a bit more open to hearing each other have differing opinions, because I think it has come across as, well, explain your no is almost demanding in a way that I've never seen this board expect anyone to explain any position until recently. And so I just think that's some of the shift that I would offer. We need to just think about how do we get there. If we're going to ask everybody to explain, everybody should explain. Yeses and nos, right? Don't pick the no to be the thing that we get on, okay? So look, if we want to move in the direction of tell me your why for your vote, then let's go there. But don't pick people.
I'm all for that.
Don't single
All for
someone
that.
out because it seems to be the minority or what have you. So I'm just putting that out there as like ground rules for how can we engage more respectfully, is don't pick on the one you're in opposition to, essentially. So that's what I
No,
would like to see.
I think
us do.
that's a great suggestion. I would be in favor of everyone always stating why they're voting, why they are. I would love that. I mean, that in terms of accountability and transparency for the community, people should know why we're voting for stuff or why we're not voting for stuff. I'm all for that.
Well, I think people have tried to explain why they vote no for things, and then they're told that they are attacking people personally. So, forgive me if maybe that feels a little bit of, bullying and having to defend.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I
mean,
think
if-
that
if-
is fair.
if-
So
if
I'm
you- I mean, if-
acknowledging.
if someone-
And for the record, in our school board's training, we were told that you do not have to defend your vote. Everyone here is entitled to a vote. You don't have to defend yourself. And being, what are you voting and why? I don't think that's appropriate, quite frankly. I think people have, people explain where they're coming from and they try to ask questions, and sometimes those questions are answered, and other times again people are accused of personally attacking people. So I think that's it has not been a great climate, and I'm in favor of being a part of making that better, absolutely. But and Zakiya, if I could just clarify, I haven't been sitting here saying, oh my God, this is horrible. I think we've definitely had some hiccups, and I think the dynamics of the board have definitely shifted, and hey, the board dynamic has changed over the past 4 years, and votes are different, and I guess that's a little something that everyone has had to get used to, compared to, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, right? So maybe it's just been a little bit of growing pains, but I don't think it's personally, I haven't been like we have to go back to the personal structure, the committee structure. Once you bring it up, it's like, oh, maybe we should. I don't know, because I heard some feedback from our last committee of the whole. I heard that it was a low point, it was an embarrassment, the kind of fighting and disrespect that people saw online. So it's not a good look, definitely not. So I think if we're going to stay in this structure, we do have to do better. Agreed.
So I use those as an example of like going forward, right? We will have our next upcoming meeting and on Monday, and then going forward, I mean, this pledge is probably fairly timely for this conversation. The irony is not lost on me. My goal was to have the conversation, not certainly to go back into like offline, but I guess how we showed up was a little bit more amicable than we do at this table. And so I'm really asking that we can really embody being civil, respectful of all viewpoints, and say your piece and don't mumble it later or whatever, say it, and what the majority is where we're going, right? And I think that's just how I think how we show up in this committee of the whole is really part of why I wanted to offer, here's another way we can do this. So I guess we're now having our own conversation about it. But are there any other comments? Because I want to make sure we move forward in the agenda. So, because we do not have to add it to the agenda for our next meeting.
I disagree that I don't think people are afraid to stand up and say what they feel or how they feel or what their belief system is. I think that it feels more that there might be an attack from somebody that disagrees with them or seen as oppositional that I think holds people back from kind of really putting that all out there. I do think that since we brought it up and we have proposed that we make a motion, I think that we should proceed with that and see where everybody is publicly. And if it passes, it passes, and then if it doesn't, we'll go from there. If it doesn't, then we obviously reevaluate and we really consider how we can rise to the occasion.
Yeah. I think if you want to put up for vote, that's how the board works. I think I totally agree with that. I mean, I think all of us as board members, we have to be willing to be uncomfortable. I have been personally cursed at multiple times at board meetings throughout the year last year from folks sitting in the audience, right? It is part of what it is, but that should not change the fact that if I believe something, I should express that belief and use that to guide the way in which I vote, which I actually believe everyone on this board votes what they believe, and that I do 100%
Everyone has the
agree
best
with.
intentions,
Yeah.
you're right, yeah.
But I just wanted to say a couple of things, because I do think that if we keep this committee structure the way it is, committee as a whole, that we need to add a section for the things that are not discussed. So we need to talk every week, every month, we need to know, is there anything updated about regionalization? What are the details about, so like, because I think that's also gonna help everybody feel like they're included, even if we have ad hoc committees. One of the reasons I am for possibly going to smaller committees is because just something that we just talked about tonight, like middle school sports, that should be something we're talking about in public, but I'm being told we're gonna you guys are gonna have a discussion. So like, those are the things I believe if we were in a smaller structure, we would be able to talk about. So those are the examples that when I say I think a smaller committee would work better is because I don't, like, why are we waiting? Like, why can't we have those discussions? That's not about anything personal, that's not about, those do not fall into the situations of executive session, so we should be able to talk about the hard things that we might have to talk about just because it's public. If we can't talk about those in public, why are we having this committee structure? So like, that was just one example, and I think every meeting we have something like that that's like, oh, we can't talk about it at this meeting, but when are we going to talk about it? So and then maybe I appreciate that board leadership meets with admin. I appreciate that. I appreciate the updates, but again, maybe those updates also need to be public and we need to read them off, or we need to discuss them as well, because that, if we want to be full transparency, we need to discuss. We have literally everything. Roger, I will agree with you here. We need to talk about it in public. So, but like, when I do hear something, like almost every meeting, even if it's tiny, that, oh, we'll talk about it another time, that's where I'm like, well, if we were all in a smaller meeting, we would be able to just hash those things out, hear what's really going on. Because I'm reading between lines here and I don't appreciate it. And so like, we gotta pick one. It has to be all here, or it has to be back in committees. Like,
So
Can I chime in real quick and just say,
offer-
Maggie, I agree with you.
Well, so let me just,
Hey,
let me
wait,
offer that.
if I may.
I thought it was a little
If I may,
cold
look,
in
we
here,
already
but-
have progress here. We're already doing something,
Well,
right?
so,
And I just want to say the regionalization was not the thing that tipped the iceberg for me. It was the referendum survey, right? So the committee that I saw that was made for the referendum, I was like, that is a cherry-picked committee.
oh, what? Oh.
That's how I saw it, and that's what really tipped the iceberg for me. It was easier for me to talk about regionalization being in the seat that me and Chris are in.
So can I
So
just,
that's
so
where,
can I-
and so it's
can I
not, it's
say
not been
something?
boiling,
That's-
it's
that's-
new.
can I say
Well,
something
and
that I
that's
learned
helpful,
from that
'cause I
piece of
didn't-
it though, with the referendum piece? We put out that survey, we did get a lot of feedback from Dr. McDowell and Ms. Coleman about that. Before that survey was sent out, they were very involved in that. They gave us what was needed to begin with to even put on the survey. Those weren't, generated by us, they were generated by them. But once we sent the survey out, I thought to myself, oh, like, I really should have like sent that out to the entire board before we actually like did that, and I don't think we did. So I
That
will
is-
take full responsibility for that, saying that was something that I realized immediately. I probably should have put that in an email and apologizing to all of you, but I'll do it publicly and just say that you are correct and that should have been more of a board conversation and more involvement in there. So I do intend to do that in the future. Just saying.
So I just
Wait,
want to
the
level set.
survey was designed by,
So so the referendum process, we sent it and asked for feedback. There was a survey option, and then there was pick your 1 through 5. And the feedback we got was have people pick versus rank. So we are trying to receive, because we get a lot of feedback about administering this. We didn't want to like force people's hands, so we received every piece of feedback we received. We adjusted the survey to meet that. Second, I actually am not quite sure. So I'm not gonna pull new kid card, but I'm gonna offer, I'm not even sure why the pay-to-play follow-up conversation needs to come to our meeting this week, and what I'm hearing is folks need more time. You don't have to come to, like, that's why we send the update, because I don't need to have more conversation or have a different view than I would believe everybody else would have. So I want to be respectful that the line of even the referendum, the pay-to-play space, will push on, are we moving into administering and micromanaging and really pigeonholing our district leaders, and want to be balanced in how we're engaging in those conversations. I'm not quite sure if we need to have this topic outside of the next meeting we have. So I think we're trying to organize ourselves in these weekly meetings to prepare for what's the topic, what is our position. The referendum piece, we thought we got feedback in the right way and right order, and honestly totally missed making sure we got everybody's feedback in a hurried attempt to start to engage the community, understood. And what I don't want to have us do is say, well, I can already hear that you gave two options and this is how we made the changes, and I'm not going to say it's us versus anybody else, right? We made the decision as leaders to send this out, and that's the decision I have to stand behind. And so that is, I'm going to say that because I don't want it to become, well, I would have preferred this or that. That isn't, I think, a fair conversation at this point. So I will own what we put our names behind and have to live with the bumps and the bruises of not being the most, right? Like, that's just real. And also respecting that we can't cross the line of pigeonholing our district leaders into a rank that may be completely arbitrary and not appropriate right now for engagement. So I think frankly, since it's not on the agenda and part of the committee structure is to determine what's on the agenda, you don't need to put this amendment on it. But I do think we should talk about, add to the agenda, clearly a referendum topic, and clearly, regionalization, transparently, I don't even know if it's a real topic at this point. Exactly. So I'm not trying to denigrate, like, it felt like a thing and then immediately fizzled on its own accidentally,
I think adding a referendum piece would probably be really helpful on this agenda. I hear you in terms of, like, trying not to pigeonhole the admin with options. Are the admin part of the referendum committee?
So in the let me be really transparent about the process so far, so we are really clear, because I've sent summaries of what has happened, so let me say it out loud. We've met twice. Between one meeting, we shifted who's on the committee, and in it, in our weekly meetings, we make sure we understand, okay, so when somebody comes up and talks about wellness, what does that really mean? When somebody comes up and talks about this, what does that mean? What are the items we should help bring forward to prioritize in our district board leadership meetings, to then bring back to that group to talk through, how do you want to get feedback? The first meeting only included the board members, and then we sent, here's what we're proposing for our feedback, via email for review and feedback to make sure the message and survey language made sense. So that's how the leaders were engaged. I asked if we should have ad hoc meetings, which I haven't formed yet, because I wanted to have this conversation to see if we even need to go in that direction versus bringing them here every single month. Yeah. So just giving process perspective, the 5 board members met, we sent the survey to our district leaders for their feedback, absorbed their feedback, made changes, and it was sent out. So let me offer that for clarity.
And I would encourage, because I know, I guess I'm the second longest tenured board member at this point, that through my experience here, all the committee meetings, whether it be ad hoc or whatever, there's always admin there, because we just don't know enough, not being part of. So I would encourage, whenever there's a committee meeting, I think I saw from the meeting notes, right, that it seemed like some admin maybe were not at those meetings, that whenever there are committee meetings, that admin be there, because I think they can provide a perspective and just a practicality standpoint that is really important, especially when we're trying to plan something as big as a referendum.
And I think you all have seen every week we're trying to say this is what we've talked about. Everything in the surveys, all the things we've been sharing, we've been talking about, so it shouldn't have been a surprise of any of the topics, and that we've really been trying to make sure that we are getting our wits about us around the words we're hearing brought forward to us at the mic, the decisions we're hearing leaders have to make around partial rollout of a curriculum, full rollout of curriculum. So we want to bring forward decisions that people may not piece out of our discussion that we're making to help meet this budget and put it in plain English. Even knowing that the language that they're going to vote on is going to be super high level, that all of this will not even feel like it's completely translated to what they vote on ultimately. So I want to just say, one, thank you all for the conversation. And that I'm actually not recommending that this has to go on the committee agenda, because it sounds like we are going to adjust how our agenda is structured to bring forward topics. We're all standing in a space of, we understand the pledge we've made to each other, to our community, and we'll show up and have a dialogue that is open to everyone. So, because part of this is about committee informs what the final agenda should be. So I don't feel the need to add it to the agenda based on this conversation. I know from those who who are not here today, no one was overwhelmingly pro or against, but I think the majority here, it sounds like we are okay with trying again in a more structured and intentional way to talk about certain topics from the referendum, the sale of Garfield, and facilities planning will be brought forward to this group, to our committee of the whole conversations going forward. And certainly we'll follow up on how do we have the other conversations around budget, operationalizing budget components is fair.
So I just wanted to make a comment about pigeonholing our district leaders. I think when we ask questions, sometimes it does seem like, maybe it does seem like we are micromanaging, but these are questions that the community has in terms of like what this is going to cost them and how it's going to go. And so these questions that I think we're asking, you know, if you don't have the answer, you don't have the answer, that's fine. But I don't think that the notion that anybody is micromanaging is necessarily fair, because these are questions that the community has, and we're just trying to get answers for them, because it's not just us that's affected by that, it's the entire community. So I just wanted to put that out there, that should not be, I shouldn't say shouldn't, but I think that I caution us to view that as micromanaging, because I think that they're genuinely good questions to ask that community members are interested in hearing.
I am going to offer that staying in this structure requires that we meet in July, right? We have too much work to do to not meet in July, so I will certainly take that offline with Kelly, but like to be off is not realistic because there's too much work to be done.
I think that absolutely makes sense. I mean, there's just a ton. Yeah.
All right. We'll talk more offline about a possible change in the bylaw also. So section 15, we are going to go over that next week. Jimmy, I think you did ask me about section 3. We didn't skip over that. We did say that that was going to be next week also potentially, so that's not a topic of conversation for tonight. And we did enter into committee of the whole, so I just wanted to follow up on that piece of it too.
Yeah, it's just my understanding that's when we would all just have a discussion like we just had, so we would
It's not
bring
really a
anything-
discussion though, because it's not that's something that's separate from this and has to be done on Monday, I think.
It isn't for all of us.
It isn't for all of us, yeah. Okay, so the miscellaneous stuff will be next week as well, and then this is our public participation for the night, so, I'm sorry, yep, go ahead, yep.
No one else
That's
can.
right, good point. I was just curious what the presentations were going to be on Monday,
Okay, I'll let you guys answer.
if there are any planned or.
So the only presentation is going to be recognizing the faculty and staff at Garfield. We don't have any planned presentations.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to section 16, unless there's anything else that anybody wants to bring up now before we move on. Okay, all right. Come on, Danielle.
What would you like me to say? I will just say that when I started and I was on the curriculum committee, my questions were, why aren't we all discussing this together? Why do I have to wait to find out what's happening at all the other committee, in our regular meeting? So it just confused me, because then when we go through it in our meeting, it goes so fast that if you're not basically researching what's happening in each committee, you don't know, and to keep up with it. So that was my question when I first started here. I know, thanks, Anthony, thanks. There's my opinion.
May I ask just for the agenda for Monday, will there be any kind of year-end wrap-up acknowledgement of accomplishments or some, we've talked about brand elevating the work that students and staff are, the accomplishments we have, and it kind of gets stuck after some energy. So how do we bring those maybe first? It's just one thing, if beyond the Garfield acknowledgement, are there any other?
Yeah, during my report, it'll be an end-of-the-year wrap-up.
All right. Section 16, public participation. So this is our reserve section for the committee of the whole. I would like to make a note that I think next week at the public meeting, we are going to go back to having 2 public comment sections, correct? There will be one in the beginning of the meeting that will be for people to talk about the items on the agenda, and then one at the end of the meeting for people to share other things that are not on the agenda. Right? That's fair? Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so, but tonight we are still holding to 1 public comment section at the end of the night. So our public participation is now section 16. Please stand, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Ms. Coleman, will you please keep time for us? The public is reminded that attempts to resolve all concerns and complaints should first go through the appropriate staff members and administrators.
Hi, Robin Hogan, President of the CEA. I'm up here to ask a question about the revision to Policy 8461M, reporting vandalism and violence. Asking why you are striking the word all from the policy. I have not been, now I've only been able to do the research tonight, but I have not been able to find where that word has been struck from the state law. So I'm unsure why we are striking it. According to this policy, the majority representation, we're supposed to get a monthly report about all acts of vandalism and violence. We're not getting those monthly reports. And now you've struck the word all. So I'd be curious as to why you made that decision. Thank you.
I'll let you take your notes. Kara Boiler, 90 Summerfield Avenue. I'm just coming as a representative for high school PTA. We had our 5th grade and 8th grade pool parties today. They went wonderfully. Thank you to Mr. Oliveri especially for coming out and spending the evening with all of our kids. And I wanted to add for our graduation this Thursday, we're going to be trying something a little new. At the exit of the ceremony for project graduation when the buses are rolling out. This should not impact the board, and I've checked in-house, but also wanted to mention it for the public. We're asking for a police escort to drive the buses down Collings Avenue as they leave, and we're hoping that the public can come support us with a clap out for our students. Sorry to anybody that lives on Collings Avenue that this might impact. But about 9 p.m., Collings Avenue, hopefully we're asking people to line in front of Knight Park to not obstruct any homes or schools. And we'll have a police escort, and hopefully a lot of people will show up. Thank you. This Thursday, June 18th.
Kara, can you send us some stuff so that we can like distribute it and put it out there? Even better, even better. Thank you.
Okay, seeing as there are no, oh,
Where's the timer? Okay. Can you acknowledge 30 seconds, please? I can't see. No, okay. No, I believe you. I believe you. Okay, I believe you. All right, ready? Here we go. Hi. Good evening. My name is Rick Short. I'm from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Chelton Parkway. Tonight I have 2 ideas to improve the Collingswood School. At parts of my speech, you will clamor up and you will not listen to me. You have to understand that will happen. You will not agree with my opinions, but that's okay. I also want to point out that I've been following you guys for over 3 to 4 years now. I know what's happening in Cherry Hill schools, and I know what's happening in Collingswood, and I want to congratulate Mr. Roger Chu over there for his work with statistician and everything else. But I find that Mr. Chu has what's called an oxymoron problem with ideologies, and I'll get into that in a second. Madam President, my question to you is this. Has your superintendent been called out twice with 2 votes of no confidence. Why do you keep your superintendent if he has 2 votes of no confidence? Because I saw it in an Audubon presentation. The second question is this. Do you have any idea, Madam President, that you could possibly be violating federal law with your 2026 policy? It is all DEI. It is totally unbelievable. It's just like the scammer over in Cherry Hill. It's a DEI scammer right here. Please show me any proof that DEI anywhere in the United States, come to this public mic and show anywhere where it's improved academic performance. Where is it approved? All right, I hope someone comes up. How about inclusion? How about this obsession that you guys all been brainwashed by, unfortunately, by your school board, not your school board, your superintendent has brainwashed you to say inclusion, which is totally delusion. I mean, it's totally unbelievable. You're suck up in 3 words or 4 words. Collaborative, I heard it tonight. Student voice, all these things that mean nothing for education. Now, my question to Mr. And of course, I would never curse at you. I'm sorry for the person that did that. I would never curse at anyone. My question to you is, in your campaign, again, sir, I totally respect the work. I've been watching you. In your campaign, it mentioned, this is Caitlin Marley mentioned this, that there are oppressed students, oppressed-free students. How can that be? So you're telling me if a 7-year-old comes to this school and her name is Patricia Johnson, and she's a mathematician, everybody here wants equity. But see, you have an oxymoron. You really want equality in this school. But you don't want equity. How about if Thomas Sowell, who was in 4th grade, why are you constantly bringing down students with equity? Equity doesn't work. And what happens with DEI? DEI does one thing, always. It takes out the white oppressor. It takes out the Jewish oppressor. How much minutes?
That's it. Thank you so much. Seeing as there is no one else coming up for public comment, I would like to see if we can get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion adjourned, or motion passed.